young internal affairs agent Raymond Avilla takes on a case involving his academy friend, police officer Van Stretch. As Avilla begins looking into the accusations against Stretch, he quickly realizes that his friend is clearly hiding something and may be corrupt. But even more intriguing to him is Stretch's mentor, Dennis Peck, an officer with a spotless reputation. When Avilla starts digging into Peck, he uncovers a full-blown criminal syndicate operating right inside the police department and finds himself facing a dangerous and ruthless enemy. The early 1990s were a time when Hollywood genre cinema was undergoing major changes. Crime thrillers were becoming darker, and straightforward action was gradually being replaced by a brooding psychological tone often intertwined with sex, violence, and power. This trend reached its peak with films like Basic Instinct and Final Analysis, but earlier examples had already begun to appear, such as Sea of Love, Blue Steel, and Internal Affairs, where narrative tension was often built on sexual attraction and psychological abuse. As a crime detective story, Internal Affairs is honestly a little uneven. There isn't actually that much police work in it. Director Mike Figgis and screenwriter Henry Bean seem far more interested in using the investigation as a pretext to pit two strong personalities against each other. One operates through truth and openness, the other through lies and manipulation. Avilla lives in a world built on law and trust, and the charming, disarming Peck quickly understands exactly where to strike to bring that house of cards crashing down. Soon, Avilla, whose moral ground is slipping away beneath him day by day, begins making one mistake after another. The filmmakers attempt a fresh take on the old aphorism that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The title Internal Affairs works on two levels at once. It refers not only to a police investigation, but also to the tangled mix of light and darkness hidden within the human soul. Originally, the film was developed as a vehicle for Andy Garcia, who at the time was a rapidly rising star, and the project was conceived as a more straightforward genre thriller. Garcia brought director Mike Figgis onto the film, a promising filmmaker with a distinctive vision. Richard Gere joined later, and largely at his suggestion, the film evolved into the version we know today. Gere proposed making Peck a more subtle, serpentine tempter, and this creative shift immediately led to friction with Garcia, who ultimately even skipped the rap party. It's unfortunate that two great actors couldn't find common ground, but their tension resulted in a truly electrifying on-screen rivalry. The simmering dislike between Avilla and Peck gradually turns into blazing hatred, so thick you could practically cut it with a knife. For Garcia, this role was simply one of many solid performances from that period. For Gere, however, the film represents a career high point. His soft charisma fits the deceitful and merciless Peck perfectly. From the very first scenes, he draws the audience in, playing masterfully on the character's duality. Intellectually, you understand that you're watching a monster in human form, yet you can't help admiring the elegance and precision with which he weaves his web. By that time, Laury, once a promising young actor who had captivated audiences with roles in Days of Heaven, American Gigolo, and An Officer and a Gentleman, had started to be seen as someone who hadn't fully realized his potential. But the 1-2 punch of Pretty Woman and Internal Affairs didn't just reaffirm his star status, it elevated him to the level of a true superstar. That said, Internal Affairs is far from a flawless film. Mike Figgis certainly brought tension, atmosphere, and psychological depth to the project, but he handles the genre somewhat carelessly. In the second half, the suspense begins to sag, and the film gradually shifts from a crime thriller into an erotic psychodrama, rich in physicality and raw impulses, but lacking genuine narrative sharpness. Still, watching the film today, more than 35 years after its release, is worthwhile, if only to witness how terrifying, repulsive, and yet inexplicably alluring evil can be, especially when it has the face of Richard Gere.